Okay.
Awesome.
I see a
Should be able
phone
to
booth.
see it
I'm
now.
guessing I see burn screen.
Love it.
Perfect.
Perfect. Thanks, Darren. All right. Hey, guys. How you doing?
Hi, Brian. Pretty good.
Nice. So I had a conversation with Taryn yesterday and this morning about our meeting today, and I think the main kind of three topics that we wanted to look at was file and file search, email distribution, and how all that kind of gets packaged together to create a project-specific email folder, and then managing kind of collaboration, or how do I get outside entities to get into Project Center, utilize some of this technology. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it is. And then, yeah, definitely. If you're definitely interested in our project, the project data storage is part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, right now, what we're doing is we're putting all our project data, contracts, submittals, RFIs, schedules, change orders, etc., as subfolders to a master project folder, and those are all in. We just use Microsoft Explorer for that.
Okay, Windows Explorer. Do you have a drive letter that you associate it to, like a P drive or something like that?
Yeah, it's on a server, a district server, so it's all shared. So
Okay.
it does have a drive letter, definitely.
Perfect. All right, so those are the three things we're going to cover, but to kind of reiterate what Taryn said a little bit earlier, if you see something pretty out of the corner of your eye, or if you want to take this in a direction, feel free to ask questions as we go along. We want this time to be used by you guys to the best of our ability. I mean, I think we have an hour together, so let's use this hour productively and make sure that you get what you needed out of this meeting today.
Okay, sounds great.
Very good. So first thing, I think what's important is to give you a little bit of an overview of Project Center. And so the first time that you open up Project Center, or when you open it off of your desktop, you're greeted with a My Project Center project list. And this is kind of divided into two different areas. One is My Projects, the screen that I'm on right now. Think of this as a favorites list, right? These are the projects that you are referring back to often. These are the ones that you guys are working in on a daily basis. So if I need to get into a project that I'm working on, we have a screen that's kind of built specifically for that reason. The second is All Projects. Now, All Projects has every single project that you guys have ever utilized in Newforma. So any project, no matter how old it is, as long as you guys still have data on it and it's not deleted, even if it's archived, we can refer back to. We also have some search and some kind of filtering associated with the All Projects list. So if you have hundreds of projects and you only want to find one, you can come in here and you can say, you know what, I want to find all the Beach Road projects, or I want to find all the California projects. And just kind of narrow those search results so you don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel and scroll through all those projects. We want to give you the ability to find a project very quickly and very easily. You can also go by project number, by last accessed, if it's active, an opportunity, meaning it hasn't been built yet, or if it's an archived project, that kind of thing. That make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Very good. So step one, find your project, right? I'm going to go ahead and open up Alpen Grove Science Center 02, and this will take me to my project dashboard. Now on the dashboard are all the different areas where we would associate project information. The thought is that there's a ton of project information associated with the project. We want you to quickly and easily find the piece of information that you're looking for. Some of it might be in project files, right? Some of it might be in email. Some of it might be an attachment. Some of it might be associated with a document. So we want to bring all of those different, what we call silos, together into one place so that you're able to quickly and easily find what you're looking for. So for example, if you're looking for a project file, probably just makes sense to go to project files. And what we do is we bring in all the folders associated with this project into one place. So if for some reason you have different folders on different drives, or if something's located here and the other thing's located there, we bring it all together and centralize it in one area. And this is just your folders, right, through Windows Explorer. We feel like Windows Explorer is really good for finding files that you know where it lives. So I can go into CAD, right? I can take a look at our architectural files for this project, and here's a list of all the architectural files. The problem is that if there's a file that's supposed to be there, but it's not, or if you're looking for something but you don't necessarily know where it would go, it kind of turns into a hide and seek, right? I'm going to look in all these different folders. If something isn't here, well, maybe it was dropped into phase 2, maybe it was accidentally dragged into field reports, maybe it's in BG files, right? I need to find this file, so I'm going to go on a scavenger hunt to find it. Does that happen with you guys right now?
Oh, it definitely happens once in a while.
Yeah, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, if I'm honest, because then you end up coming to IT, if you have an in-house IT, and say, well, this file used to be here, but it's not, so then they go back into the backups and they try and find it. You end up getting a bunch of other people involved when all you have to do is search for it. So what Newforma does is when you associate a file or a folder with a project, we scan it, we OCR it, and we index it to a database. So if you're looking for something and you can't find it, we give you search tools. So I can come up in the top right-hand corner and I can search the entire project for a search term or a group of search terms in quotes and say, you know what, I want to find, I don't know, I'll use concrete today. So if I know I'm looking for a file that has to do with concrete, it's going to bring up all of the results. This is whether or not concrete's in the title of the file. We're also scanning inside of the file, the actual text within that PDF or that DWG or that doc file, and we're searching for concrete within those parameters as well. And we're showing you a list of, in this case, 801 results. But just like we did with the project, we want to be able to refine these results down to a manageable number. So I can filter by a certain category. So I can say, you know what, I know it was a PDF, right? And I can say, you know what, here's all my PDFs. I know it was a published document. I know it was a DWG, a DWF, something like that, a drawing. And I can find all my drawing files. I can open one up, and it's actually going to open up in the Newforma viewer. You don't need DWG TrueView on your computer anymore. Newforma has a viewer. So it's getting away from the multiple installs, just one install and you're good to go. So we're opening up this DWG file. It opens up in the Newforma viewer, and I can jump from instance of concrete to instance of concrete. So I can find exactly what I'm looking for in these files. Make sense?
It does. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
On your project folders, active project folders, we have active and inactive project folders basically. So it narrows our search down when we're in Windows Explorer. So we only look at the active projects. If you're doing a search, something like that, can you break it out that way also? So you're not looking, when you open up all your projects, you're not looking at every project ever performed. It's only the active projects.
Yeah, so you can do it a few different ways. In the case of my example, I'm using concrete to search only this one selected project. But if I wanted to open the floodgates a little bit, I can say I want to search project email associated with all projects. I want to search archived and offline projects. I want to search my projects, that favorites list. Or I can even come in here and I can select whatever projects I want to search through, either through my projects or all projects.
Okay.
So you can get really granular on what you're searching for. You can also say I only want to search within a specific file path. So you can say, I know it's in this file somewhere, but I don't want to go through every single subfolder. You can come in here and you can say, you know what, I know it's in the CAD file, but I don't want to search through architecture and electrical and civil and all that stuff. I just want you to find the file within the CAD file that I want to find.
Okay.
So you can get pretty granular on your search.
No, that's
Did that
perfect.
answer your question?
Yeah, it did.
Perfect. So we're filtering by drawings in this case. A little bit of a spoiler, you can also filter by email. So I can say, you know what, find me any email that has anything to do with concrete on the Alpengrove Science Center O2 project. I can select an email. It'll pop up in the viewer below. Here's my instance of concrete. We highlight it for you. If I select an email with an attachment, right, I don't see any highlighting anywhere in the subject or in the body, but I do see that this attachment's highlighted. So we're kind of taking it one step deeper, right? We're saying, okay, here's an email that has an attachment that has the search term of concrete in it. And again, you can open up this DWG file. It'll open up with the Newforma viewer, and I can look at all the different text that says concrete. In this case, it's vertical, which is actually pretty cool. So that's the thought with project search, file search, filtering down to a manageable number. that kind of thing. We're also searching within compressed files. So if I go to PDF and I type in something like electrical, you can see that not only do I have PDFs, but I also have compressed files that contain PDFs that have the name of electrical that have the word concrete in it. So there's a lot of power behind this. Give you the ability to find what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I guess because it does show why you do need to be able to narrow the search down by project or whatever. If it can get to that granular, it needs to be granular like that. Otherwise, you could have thousands of items pull up. If it's looking
Absolutely.
For everything.
And we do give you every single one of these columns is a way to filter those down.
Okay.
So keywords, ID, types, file path, size. So if I know if it's a big document, I can say, you know what, I want to filter by size. The date modified. Oh, this is a project that was 6-7 years ago, right? Date modified is a great way to kind of narrow that search result even more. You can come in here and you can type in keywords if you really want to. But the nice thing about this system is that all of this indexing and all of this kind of metadata is happening automatically. You're not having to put in here and type any of this information in. We're doing this automatically, right? Kind of get away from that human error thought process.
Okay.
So that's getting information, documents, into the system and being able to search for those documents within the system. Any questions on that?
No.
Very good.
I have questions, Paul. Okay.
All right. So next, I typically go into project email. Is that something that you guys are interested in?
Absolutely.
So what are you guys doing currently for email and sharing that information?
This is what's triggering this conversation and this search.
Okay.
Right now, currently, we take our emails, I file them into my subfolders within my Outlook.
Sure.
And the problem is they're not accessible for anyone else. If I pull them out and put them into, say, a Windows folder, an Explorer folder, then they're very different. You can't search them. You have to open up each one to see what they are. There's naming issues. It's extremely cumbersome, and they're basically not useful to anybody else. So they don't live with the project. They only live with the individual in a sense.
Yep. And then an individual leaves the company, and then you have to go spelunking in 10,000 emails.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, so Newforma kind of takes what you're doing right now with those shared folders and elevates it to a certain extent. So if I go into my Outlook and I go into my inbox, I have a bunch of emails, right? I also have folders over to the left. Now what I will say is, remember when we were looking at the project list and I talked about my projects, my little favorites list?
Yeah.
Well, when you designate a project as my project, as a favorite, it'll automatically create this folder in Outlook based off of our Newforma add-in. So you don't have to create these folders manually. We'll take care of it for you.
And can you rename those folders?
I believe you can. Yep.
Okay.
They're just based off of the name of the project. Whatever it's named in Newforma is what it'll copy back over. You can rename it. There is a link to a folder on your share drive. So if I take a group of emails, right, and I associate it with the Alpen Grove Science Center project, what's happening is that those emails are getting copied over to your share drive. So that P drive that we were talking about earlier, wherever you want it to go, it'll copy those emails over there. It'll scan and OCR and index just like it did before with those files that I was talking about. At what point it'll take those emails and it'll put them wherever you want, right? Some people really like to be pack rats with email, right? They love it to be in their inbox. So if you want the email after it's been scanned and filed by Newforma to go back into inbox, no problem. We can handle that. If you want the email to go to a special folder that says items filed by Newforma, just so it's kind of a catch for all the emails that you've ever filed, you can do that. A lot of our customers put it in deleted items because realistically you don't need it anymore after it's been filed by Newforma. You always have a place to go to find all the project-related email, anything that's been associated with the project record. Make sense so far?
Yeah. Now if you put it into, say, the Newforma folder, but you also kept it in your inbox. Is there a way to know that you'd already put it into Newforma, or when you look at it in your inbox, it just doesn't show copy Newforma or anything? It's just like as if it just come in, and then you try to place it back into the Newforma folder when you're done with it.
So great question.
An example being, I received an email that I need to work on. I don't want to file it really permanently until I've done working on it, but I want to put it into the Newforma where everybody else can see it until I'm done with it.
Sure.
Once I've addressed it, I could delete it, but then I wouldn't know. Is there a way I would know that I actually had filed it when I first received it, or no?
Great question. So a few different facets of that. One, the blue icon means that it's been filed by Newforma.
Oh, perfect.
So I can see what I filed, what I haven't filed. Second, we're automatically duplicating emails. So if I take an email and I file it twice, I'm not keeping 2 copies of it in Newforma. I'm only keeping 1. If I file it and Taryn files it and Scott, you file it, right? Still only 1 copy is being saved because we're deduplicating those emails. Second point, if I have an email that I need to take action on, right? It might be, I don't know, whatever it is. Doesn't really matter, right? If I have an email that I have to take action on, we can track tasks within Newforma. So if I have something, let's just say door revisions, right? I need to review these door revisions. I can file this in Newforma as an action item, right? So I can say this is associated with Alpine Grove Science Center. I'm going to file this as an action item. And now I'm able to track this action within Newforma. When is it due? Who is it assigned to? Right? So I can come in here and I can say, you know what, I want to assign this to Bob, or I want to assign this to Peter. Right? Put in any information I want. It's automatically logging that email, so you don't have to go back and re-log it after you've done that item. Log it as an action item, get it into the system, assign it to either yourself or whomever you want to associate it with, and then create it out.
Okay. And I take it this will create a dunning list?
It'll create a action item list. So that's what this is working off of.
Then will that email out to the reminder to anybody? You can put a date in there to remind them that, hey, this is due?
Yep, absolutely. So you can say remind them 2 days before it's due, and then afterwards it'll remind them daily. If it's an overdue item, you'll get a list of all of your overdue items saying, hey, you need to work on these. They're overdue now.
Okay.
You can come in here and you can say, I want to see everyone's action items associated with the project team. I want to see my action items. Or you can come in here and you can filter, again, that kind of reoccurring theme of filtering and finding what you're looking for. I want to see all the action items that are assigned to Bob. I want to see all the action items that are assigned to Howard. Right? There's also a mobile app, again, kind of a little bit of a, a sneak peek, but we have a mobile app that syncs all this information down to a tablet. So you can create new actions off of a tablet, you can assign actions off of a tablet, you can pull reports off of a tablet, and just see what's happening with these action items, or your phone.
Okay.
The other half of email is, so what we've shown so far is, okay, I've received an email, I want to associate it to the project in some way, right? I want to create a project record based on dragging and dropping. I want to create a task off of it. But what no one ever really thinks about are sending emails out. So if I want to respond to Bob, or if I want to respond to Peter, right? I can come in here, I can type in my wonderful response. What you have to do typically is hit send, and then go to send items, find the email, and then drag it in. I mean, that's a 4-step process. No one's really going to do it, and no one does do it. We have a send and file in Newforma button. So when I press this button, it automatically associates it with the project that this email has been associated with. In this case, it's associated with an action item, right? So it knows what project it's on, and I can send this response, file it to that action item automatically to Newforma without having to drag and drop. It'll create a related item, so it says this action item is associated with this email, Also, this email was a response to this creation email.
Okay. Now, currently the way I use Outlook is I actually use it similar to Windows Explorer, where I actually have my project folder, my project name, and then I have subfolders under that each project.
Sure.
Like even if it might be RFI, submittal, something. Now, how would that work with this auto save?
Yeah, so you can create subfolders. So on my Alpen Grove Science Center project, I also have a confidential folder, right? Now that confidential folder will have different permissions, so only me and a group of people can see any confidential information. Think of it as a project executive type thought process.
Okay.
RFIs are a little bit different. So if instead of assigning an email to a action item, right, maybe I assign it to an RFI, or maybe I assign it to a submittal. And then with the Newforma, I have a submittal log that I can always go back in time and I can see what emails are associated with, for example, this submittal for lighting. Here's the email log. There's the email that was associated with that submittal for lighting. So it's thinking of it in a way where if I want to find something that's related to this RFI and submittal, I'm going to that RFI and submittal. I'm not going to a repository for all of the RFI and submittal emails and then just trying to find the one that I'm looking for. Let's use search terms to find what we're looking for in Newforma. Let's go to the RFI or the submittal that I'm referencing and find the email that was associated with it, along with any related items that have ever been built out of Newforma associated with this RFI or submittal.
Okay.
Does that make sense, the thought process?
It does, in a sense. Well, if I understand it correctly, then in a sense, like that RFI, I've got a folder, like say, it'd be similar to me having a Windows Explorer folder that says for RFIs, and when I save this email RFI, instead of going into my Outlook, it goes right into the Windows Explorer folder in a sense, although it's Newforma.
Correct, and then the link to the RFI or submittal is in Newforma.
So it's all saved in that one folder. It's not like I got two boxes, one for emails, one for documents. It's all one box.
You can create subfolders. So if I go back home and go to my project files, I can go into communication, and here's our email folder. And so here's all the emails that I have, but I also have subfolders based on when it was created, and then here's my confidential folder. Okay. So you can create an RFI folder, a submittal folder, a whatever you want. The thought process is that if I have an RFI and I'm logging it in the system as an RFI, instead of going to my confidential folder and finding all of the emails associated with every single RFI or submittal that I've ever created, let's pinpoint that down and find the emails that pertain to that specific RFI that I want to look for.
Okay.
So if I have a problem with RFI 203, probably makes sense to go into RFI 203 in Newforma and take a look at the email and file log instead of going into my RFI folder and trying to find the email that has something to do with 203.
Right. Basically, all the data can be kept in one location instead of two, like currently what I have to do.
It absolutely can. The only reason that I would really suggest having multiple folders is in that case that you want certain people to see emails and you don't want to necessarily open them up to the entire project team.
Okay.
Right? Margin confirms if you're a contractor, right? Probably just makes sense for the project executive, the PM to be able to see that stuff. Super doesn't need to see margin confirms. PEs don't need to see margin confirms. Laborers don't need to see margin confirms. That kind of thing.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
Questions on project email? How are we feeling?
Looks like we're doing pretty good.
Okay.
I have a question. Okay.
Sure.
So in these emails, say, I've got a project name, one, and it has multiple subfolders underneath it, and then I misfiled one, and I did the search. I found that misfiled email. How do I get that misfiled email into the correct folder?
Drag and drop.
So you just grab it where you found it, and then just go back and drop it into the folder. Okay.
Yep. I will say eventually these folders are just temporary holding stores. They won't be here forever. So if you realize that you misfiled that email or dragged it to the wrong area, you can just drag and drop it to the right folder in the amount of time. If you have an email that you associated with the wrong folder afterwards, you always have access to your Windows Explorer. So if I wanted to open up my email, right, I can come in here and I can go to Explorer Tasks and I can say, you know what, select in File System. And here it is in my Windows Explorer, a lot like how you're used to doing it right now. We're sitting on top of your File Explorer. We're not rewriting any of this information. So if you find an email that you misfiled, just find it and drag and drop it. No problem whatsoever.
So that's what I'm talking about is not in Windows Explorer, in Outlook.
Yeah, in Outlook.
Yeah.
So if you catch it before it's been filed.
It'd be in Newforma, I guess. If it's in Newforma, if it's in Newforma, is it in Windows Explorer?
Yes.
Okay. So when it's in Windows Explorer, once you get to that point, the name changes, and what's the ability? Like, can you go back to where you just were?
Sure. So
okay.
now, we're changing the names.
Emails to see what they actually are.
Yeah, you can select one and it'll open it up.
Okay, perfect.
You can also, so with the renaming of the file, traditionally when you drag and drop an email out of Outlook and put it on a desktop, it renames the file only to the subject, which is a problem if you're trying to file it because, re-project X is the same if it's the first reply as it is with the 90th reply, right? So what we do is we rename it to say when was it sent, when was it received, who was it to, and then we put a code in the middle that dictates kind of special characters so that if you have two of the same, you don't have an overwritten email, right?
Okay.
But all this kind of information here means something to us because if I go back home and I go into my project email, here is all of the project-related email that's been associated with the project record. So I can get really granular on this. I can say I want to see every email that has the subject of this. I can see every email that was sent by this person at this date or filed on this date. I can see all of the email that was ever sent from Howard to Peter. And it'll just show me every single email. And these are MSG files, right? So I can just open one up. It'll open up in Outlook, and I can reply to it. I don't have to be Howard. I don't have to be Peter. I can reply to this email because it's associated with the project as a whole. I don't have to CC 90 people on it. Everyone has access to all the emails on your team.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Very good. All right. So that is project files and project email. I realize that's a lot of information, so.
Yeah. Can we touch on one more thing?
Sure.
Archived. How does that function? I mean, when it's archived, is it readily accessible? Do you have to pull it out of archived? What is archived?
Yeah. So what do you guys do for archive currently?
I don't archive.
Okay. So when we flag something in Newforma as archived, it becomes read-only. So you do have the ability to come in here and view old information, to view the old project files, to view the old project email, view any of the information that's associated with the database like time, date stamps, etc. We're not touching or moving any of that data because where it lives is on your shared drive. What we want to stop is people from adding new information into a project that's associated with an archive. So you can always take a project and activate it again, right? Make it active, add something to it, and then archive it back. But if it's in an archive state, it is read-only.
What's the process of pulling it out and making it active? Say I've got an email or something, I had a warranty item on something that's 5 years old on a roof, and I want to pull it out and put those emails back into it, do something else, and then re-archive it. Is it a quick process? Is it a slow process?
No, it's a drop-down. So if I go to Edit Project Settings, Status Active, Status Archive.
Okay.
Change status back to active, it's active. Change status back to archived, it's archived. What I will say is this is an administrative task, so not everyone on your team is going to be able to do this.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
simple enough.
Simple drop down. But after the project is, completed, you still want this information because the statute, I want to believe, on a project is 7 to 10 years, depending on your state. So you're going to want to keep this archive for 7 to 10 years, or maybe longer.
Yeah, we actually keep ours, since we're the owners of the buildings, we keep them indefinitely.
Yep, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, we do modernizations 20, 30, 40 years later, and sometimes it's good to have, some of these documents.
Yeah, just makes sense. Right? Why was a certain decision made? Right? What do the plans look like at each iteration? What was the name of the carpet that we put in that room, or the paint color? From a maintenance perspective, it just makes sense as well.
Okay.
Feeling good?
Yeah.
All right. Do you ever have to send documents out to other project team members?
Yes.
What are you guys doing for that right now?
Outlook.
Okay. So
Outlook or Dropbox.
Okay, very good. So Outlook if it fits in an Outlook message, Dropbox if it's bigger than that, right?
Right.
Okay. So with Newforma, we kind of thought about this and we said, okay, well, everyone's finding files in our system, everyone's finding email in our system. Wouldn't it be great if instead of having to use a third-party product or send something out through Outlook, if we could just do it for them? So what we did is we developed something called Info Exchange. So if I go into my CAD file and I go into my, architecture files and I want to send these out, right? I can select them. I can go to Info Exchange and I can either transfer them or I can transfer them and log a transmittal of this information as well directly from Newforma. If I transfer them, something that looks a lot like an email pops up. I can start typing in names. So I'm going to send it to Peter. He's the architect. I'm going to send it to Bob. He is the construction manager. Put in my wonderful subject, right? Type in my remarks. I can check what files I want to send, and I'm going to transfer them out. Now, when I send a document out or a list of documents, a few options come up. Now, these options can be set to a default range so that by default, your file transfer options are X, Y, and Z, right? But you can always come in here and customize it if you want to. They're really simple questions. Who do I want to send this to? Only the specified recipients? If Bob or Peter are out, does it make sense that someone on their team can come in here and view them as well? Do I want to just push it out to everyone associated with the project? Do I want them to be able to download partial content? So I'm sending, what, 7 files? Yeah, 7 files. Do I want them to be able to come in here and download one, or is it a package deal, right? You have to download all 7. How long do I want it to sit out there? The problem with Dropbox is that people love to put things on FTP sites, Dropbox accounts, whatever, but they never go in there and remove anything. So if you have a document, a living document that changes, and someone pulls the old version of that because it's still on the Dropbox, that's an issue. So what we do is we automate that and we say it's only going to sit out there for 14 days. After that, it will be inaccessible because most likely it's outdated at that point. Do I want a notification and reminder when someone downloads it? Do I want them to have to log in with a username and password in order to download it? How secure do I want these? Notification and reminders. Hey, it's 2 days before this is supposed to expire and Peter still hasn't come in here and downloaded it. That's a problem, right? Peter hasn't downloaded this document that you sent 12 days ago. And I can press OK. So I'm sending all of this out. They're going to get an email notification with a link to take them directly to that file. If I have them log in, it'll ask them to log in. But the magical thing is that we're tracking all of this in the background. So I have my info exchange. I can come in here and I can say, you know what, show me all outgoing transfers from the project. Here's my great files. It shows me it's been created, the upload started, the upload completed. It shows me the files that I transferred. If I go to a different one, let's go to the R&R files or the BP files. Yeah. It'll show me Peter downloaded this on the 15th of November at 1:28 p.m. So when Peter calls you and says, hey, you know what, I'm sorry, I never got that drawing or I never got that document, I built it wrong, you can say, well, Peter, you came in here and you downloaded this on the 15th of November. You're going to have to pay for that issue, right? You have the information in order to make those calls. You have the information to say, well, Peter, yeah, you did download it, and I have a record associated with it.
Okay.
The thought process is that whoever has the most information controls it.
Right. And this will automatically produce a transmittal letter also?
Yeah.
Nice.
Instead of the transfer files like I selected, let's go back. I'll go civil this time. All I have to do is select transfer and log transmittal instead of transfer only. You'll have a few little different options because now we're filling in a transmittal at the same time, right?
Right.
But all of this information is logged as a transmittal, logged as a transfer.
Cool.
So taking it away from that Dropbox, kind of keeping it within one system, tracking it, creating a log associated with it, and all of this information, to kind of go back to the archive point, all this information is archived as well in the project. So when you go into file transfers and info exchange, it has every single file that you've ever sent out for this project associated with info exchange in an archive state. Make sense?
Yes.
So we've gone over a little bit. We've gone over project files, project email, info exchange, action items. Do you want to touch on contract management?
Yeah, that'd be great. And also, does this perform any project accounting functions?
So we don't do accounting.
Okay.
We can pull some information from like a Deltek product. We wanted to focus on more project information than project accounting, because once you bring accounting into it, the cost gets a lot higher, if I'm honest. And a lot of people see it as, if I don't like the accounting, I don't like the rest of it. We want you guys to use the accounting product that you want because you purchased that accounting product for a specific reason.
Right. Okay. But we could still utilize it to save accounting files in a sense.
Absolutely. You can create an accounting project. We have a lot of customers, actually. My wife works for an engineering firm, and she created a marketing drive to keep all their CVs, to keep all of their proposal requests, things like that in it, so that she can find what she's looking for really, really quickly. Think of it from a project perspective, but then open it up a little bit and say, here's an HR project that has all the HR files in it. Here's the accounting project that has all the accounting files in it, that kind of thing.
Okay. You can stay here.
All right. So submittals and RFIs. What are you guys doing for submittals and RFIs right now? Are you guys playing construction management on a lot of this, or is it you want to give them a platform?
Yeah. Most of the time, RFIs, submittals, et cetera, go to the architect, and we're CC'd.
Okay.
The architect owns them in a sense. And then we're CC'd. We'll do a review and send it back, any of our comments back to the architect.
Sure.
Then the architect will take that and send it back to the contractor and then CC us.
Okay. So do you guys do a lot of business with architects that use Newforma?
No, I think I only work with a couple.
Okay. So I will say that Newforma is very prevalent in the architecture space. The nice thing about that for you guys is that you can create what's called an end-to-end connection, what's known as Newforma to Newforma. So you can link their Newforma environment for a project to your Newforma environment on a project. So every single submittal that they send, every single RFI is not only logged in their environment, but it's also logged in your environment. So when you come in here, you would see a list of submittals. They're being populated automatically on your side because you're referencing the architect's Newforma environment at this point. So you don't necessarily have to do anything.
Basically, our project is a copy of their project.
Or vice versa. Whatever they decide to share with you from a module by module perspective. You don't want them necessarily to see every single email associated with the project on your end, but you might want to see emails that they've filed to the project on their end. So it's kind of a conversation with that architect. We have a lot of engineering firms that also use it to create that Newforma to Newforma connection. Now, what I will say is if you guys are just being CC'd on notifications, what most likely would happen is that most of your RFI and submittal notifications would happen through email, meaning that you would come into project email, you can associate an RFI or a submittal folder, and then you can say, show me all the emails that are in that RFI or submittal folder. And then there are all of your notifications. Okay. So there are a few different ways to handle it from the owner's perspective.
But the actual RFIs, the actual RFIs, now that folder we would be able to share, and then when they respond to an RFI, it's there, it automatically saves onto ours also if it's shared.
Yep, and the documents. So we have a lot of owners. Go ahead.
Okay, so then when they see, they wouldn't really even need to necessarily CC me. They'd send it out saying Newforma, saying there's an RFI, it's responded to, here it is, but I really wouldn't have to turn around and file it again and resave it, because it's already there.
Correct. Think of it as a notification instead of all the information in an email.
Okay.
Yep. We have a lot of owners that say, you know what, we're a Newforma shop. It'd be great if you were a Newforma shop too. I'm not only saying that because it helps us out, but I'm saying it because it automatically maintains this log for you from an RFI and submittal perspective. So you don't have to do anything, and at the end of the job, you have everything.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yep. All right. Anything else that you guys were interested in? Any questions? I don't want to just keep on piling on the stuff because we've already gone over a lot of information.
Either one of you guys have anything? No.
Is this something that you guys could see helping you out?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. So right now, it feels a little clunky, a little cumbersome how we're doing it right now.
Sure. Manual.
Yeah. I mean, as far as saving some of the documents, the data storage, seems like the search function would be, helpful. The Newforma would be fantastic. But probably the most helpful out of this is probably the email.
Yeah. Email just becomes a really big cluster, because either everyone has their own copy of it, everyone's being CC'd on everything else, meaning that you have to go through your email, and at the end of the day you have 200 emails, not because you needed them, just because you got a bunch of FYIs.
Right, or the problem is you weren't CC'd on it and you didn't know it existed, and it was something you really needed to take action on.
Yep, knowledge silos. It's a dangerous thing. And being able to kind of take those emails and create items and action items on it, assign it to people inside of the firm and outside of the firm. So if you get an email and you want to assign it as an action item to your contractor team, you can do that absolutely through Newforma. They pull it up on a mobile app. It has pictures and images associated with it, and you can see where they're at. Depends on how hands-on.
Right. Now on this, like when I'm looking at a Newforma screen like this, and I see submittals, that actually just goes to into Windows Explorer, a submittal folder there, correct?
This goes to our database, and it shows you every single submittal that's been logged associated with the project.
Right. But
so I can come in here. Go ahead.
It's still, the data actually lives in Windows Explorer.
All of the attachments live in Windows Explorer.
Okay. Okay. But you couldn't turn around and drop something directly into that Windows Explorer because it's a data file that it wouldn't necessarily recognize any longer. It has to go through it has to go through Newforma to get to be placed in Windows Explorer?
Correct.
Okay. Now what happens, how does it deal with all of our existing documents that are already in Windows Explorer?
So you can do it a few different ways. One is you can go back in time and you can create projects and link them to those project folders if you want to. It'll scan an OCR and index all that information. We have some companies, depending on how many archived or back-end projects you have, sometimes only do the really big ones or the ones for the last 2 years, whatever you want to do, and then take all of the other information, all the other projects, and put them into a generalized project, says before Newforma.
Okay.
And then it'll scan and index and OCR all that information as well. It depends on how much time you want to spend on it and how many projects you have.
Okay, let's just say, for example, I've got one that's only a year old. It's a small project, probably has, you know, some subfolders, a main project with a couple subfolders. Some RFIs are kind of mixed into a couple of the different subfolders and some submittals maybe and some different things. How would I take that and reintroduce it into Newforma?
Yeah, so you would create a project for that, for that project, whatever the name was, and you would come in here. If I go back to my project, I go into Edit Project Settings. Newforma only knows the project files because you tell it where those project files live. So if I go to Project Folders, here are the 2 folders on my share drive that I want to associate with, in this case, Alpine Grove Science Center. So you'd create a project, you'd link that folder that you have on your share drive with those few folders, RFIs, submittals, and what it'll do is it'll bring all that information in and put it into project files. What it won't do is automatically log those submittals and RFIs for you because they're not associated with the database.
Right.
But what it does give you is it gives you all the files that are associated with that project, and now they're searchable. You can go back in time as well, and you can start logging those emails to it. If you're really good about your folders, it's super easy. Just copy those emails, drag them into that new folder, and let Newforma take care of it.
Now let's say each subfolder was just add one subfolder just for submittals, one just for change orders, something like that. Now
Sure.
if it's like that, does it make it a little easier?
Yeah, so if I go into a project and I go into project files, these are all the subfolders that you have in that root folder. So you would have submittals, you'd have RFIs. It would look identical to what it looks like in Windows Explorer right now. So it's easy for you to go in there and find it.
So what I'm saying is let's say I imported, you got P photos. So I imported my photo folder in, well, then I just have, would I take that all the data from that one folder and then drag and drop it back into Newforma's photo folder?
So our photos application, project images.
I was just using that for an example. I could have been submittals, could have been anything.
Well, so submittals are associated with the database. So because you have a folder called submittals doesn't mean that it's going to create submittals and RFIs in the contract management portion. So these would both be blank. You would have to manually come in here and add a submittal and log that.
Each one individually. Okay.
Correct. Because they're associated with the database, they're not line items that are built based off of one file.
Got it.
Or a group of files, whatever it might be. But project photos, depending on the module, it acts a little bit differently. We have project photos in this case just to show me all of the images that are in our P photos folder. So that would work because it's just taking those raw files and allowing me to see them in a project photos area. Very good.
Yeah.
What are you guys doing for punch lists right now?
For punch lists, we usually put them out onto, for our own use, Excel sheet, and then send it off to the architect to include in theirs.
So in Newforma, we have action items, right? Think of punch lists as action items, only we have mobile apps. So you can give your contractor team a mobile app called Tasks, and they can use that to create punch list items, take pictures of it, log information. All of that information comes back into your instance of Newforma, so you have an idea of every single punch list item as the project was being built for maintenance reasons, etc. But it's all done off of a mobile app for your contractor team. Take a picture with an iPad.
Is that a charged or no charge app?
So it's no charge app. They can pay for it if they want multiple projects at once. So if you have a contractor team that's working on 2 or 3 different projects for you, same exact contractor team, same exact individuals. They would have to pay for the application because the free version only gives you access to 1 project at a time.
Okay.
You guys, however, would have the full versions of those applications because you guys own Newforma.
Right. Okay.
So you guys could see all of your punch list items, for example, on all the projects that are happening at any point in time and all of the past projects off of a mobile device. Same thing with plans. We have a document control application called Plans for a tablet that allows you to see all the drawings associated with the project, etc.
Can I see a quick example of one of the punch lists, how that goes together?
Yeah. You want to see it on the tablet, or you want to see it on the client interface?
This interface is fine.
Okay. So if I go into punch list looks identical to tasks, right? So I can see here's a punch list 2. It's in the woman's space number, room number 104. It's a restroom. The elements of floor, the tiles are not properly cut and pieced together. It's been assigned to Peter, right? I can see any of the related items. In this case, it's a space. And I can see all the information associated with it. What's the status? When is it due? What are the related items? Right? I can see this one has a picture associated with it. So here's my supporting document, cracked tile. So we're keeping all that information. All this information is also on the tablet. So you'll see that there's a picture on it. You can mark up the picture off of the tablet. You can take a picture of the corrected version before you close it out, so you have a picture of it being closed out.
Okay. You said the tablet version works on a phone also, if you can see the phone that well, if the screen's large enough?
Yeah.
Okay. And then that one, when you're doing the, when you're actually putting the punch list items down, you just snap there's a location where you can just snap a picture right then and insert it, correct?
Yeah, let me bring it up really quick. This will only take 30 seconds. So here's an example of the tablet. So I can go into my tasks application. We have 7 different applications. Everything from I want the phone number and address of everyone that's working on the project to I want to see all the project email that's been associated with each project. But we'll go into tasks, and it'll show me all of the information associated with our action items area. So I can get a really quick idea of how things are going. I have 64 total items in here, 44 are past due, 1 is due this week. I can filter these down to say I only want to see punch list items in this case. And I only want to see the ones that are assigned to Bill. So the graph changes. It shows me that Bill has 8 items, 8 are past due. I can create a report based on this information. I can send it over to Bill saying, hey, Bill, what the hell? I can add a new one, new punch list. I can take a picture with my tablet. Right, so there's my picture. I can come in here and I can mark it up. Right, add annotations if I want to. Assign it to an individual, so I'll assign it to Bill as well. Put in a subject, door, put in a description. It'll keep the past versions, so bad finish on door, and save it out. So now I've just created a punch list item. If I don't have data on my tablet, right, if I'm out in the field and I don't have Wi-Fi or I don't have a Verizon connection, it'll save until I do get into data, at what point I can just upload these guys to the Newforma environment. Make sense?
Yeah.
Same thing with plans. So I can go into a plan just to kind of expand on this a little bit. And I can go into Alpengrove and I can see my A201 plan. This is an offline version as well. I don't need data in order to open this. I can drag and drop a pin, so serving kitchen. and I can create a punch list off of the plan. At what point it'll take a screenshot, a snapshot of the plan that I'm using, and upload that as well up to the Newforma environment.
Oh,
Think
great.
of it as another picture.
And I think it doesn't just work with iPad, it works with Windows-based, iPads.
So with Windows-based, we recommend just using the Newforma application, the
Okay.
end-user client. iPads are a little bit different. We created this environment to begin with. Most of our individual customers are using iPads or Apple devices, iOS. So we started there. There are certain applications that are both Apple and Android, Project Teams being one of them, email being the other for Android. But most of them are iOS at this point in time. I believe we're an 80-20 split where it goes 80% of our users are iOS, 20% are Android. So we had to start with the 80.
Probably a good business move.
Yeah. Any end thoughts? I know we're kind of running on our time, and I want to be respectful of you guys' time, but I would like to answer any questions or any other thoughts that you guys have.
Yeah. If we went with this, then what training is available? I know we're on the West Coast. I mean, just YouTube. Yeah. What type of training?
So we have a training department. Part of the implementation is end-user training. So we actually implement this software on your behalf, install it, configure it with you guys, make sure all of the different areas are linked appropriately, and then we can either do a web-based training, kind of something like we're doing right now, or we have trainers all over the United States, so we can fly someone to the West Coast.
Okay.
I would love to come to the West Coast again. I'm in Colorado.
I will volunteer West Coast.
West Coast, Best Coast.
Where are you right now? East Coast?
I'm sorry?
Where are you located right now?
I'm in Denver.
Denver? Oh, Denver's not too bad right now, is it?
Oh, no, it's 70 degrees outside.
Yeah, that's what it is here.
I love it.
It's East Coast. I hate to be.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, she's in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Yeah, we're getting a blizzard as we speak.
Karen, what's your temperature there?
Oh, let's see. Right now, let me just look up what the exact temperature is. I went outside a minute ago, and it was 24 degrees.
24?
Yeah.
That's so cold.
It's very cold. I was just in Vegas last week, and it was in the 80s, beautiful, just dry, nice temperature, and came home to this beautiful blizzard.
Yeah. Okay, so for cost of the application, I work with Taryn on that?
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. So
Okay.
I can send you over some outline pricing via email. That way you have that.
That'd be
You
great.
can pass it along to the team as well. I'll follow up with that email right after this call.
Okay.
Perfect. And then, if we have to, if you have any questions, don't hesitate. We can always set up another quick call to discuss pricing in further detail.
Okay. Brian,
Awesome.
Thank you very much. I can tell you've been through this a couple of times.
Happy to help. I'm actually from the construction industry myself, so I mean, my dad's a superintendent and he builds buildings. I did this for a few years, so really like talking to the owner's side, really like talking about it on an application side. So if any questions come up, feel free to reach out. I'm definitely here to help you guys out.
Great, appreciate it.
I wanted to thank, you, Scott, and your team, Jonathan and Al, that are on this call, and Brian especially. Like I said, if you have any questions after this demo, I'm going to be sending you a recorded version, and then we can always, set up a quick call, and then I'll get that pricing over to you shortly.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, I hope you guys enjoy your beautiful 70-degree weather. I'm going to be sitting over here, hopefully trying not to freeze. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna go outside and have a bite.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for a bike ride.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys.
You bet.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.